Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Marion. Good to be back with you this year.
So good to be back. It's been a minute. I am glad we are coming back together to talk about some important things going on currently.
That's right. I mean, we've come back in. There's a new administration. The 47th administration has taken control now of the future of the nation. And the truth is we've talked about this before in the past, and I think it's important that we're here to talk about how we are looking at the future and the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, it was about a year ago when we first brought up our concerns around this administration and the future of where this country's going. And unfortunately, here we are today. But, you know, there are things that we can still do to make a difference. And that's why we wanted to come back together on the Love and Leary podcast and give you some things to consider, how ways that you can get involved and actions you can take and some real concrete steps of things we can do as individuals that really elevate our collective voices.
And
And
I
as
think
nurses, and as nurses, we really, it's one of the things where we both feel strongly we should be more engaged in these types of activities.
Absolutely. I think democracy is something that we need to talk about. It's still a relatively new idea in the world, only 200 years old. And the truth is, it's an experiment of the population and of a government for the people, by the people. And I think, as nurses, Marian, we look across history, we look across the last 200 years of our own nation, and we recognize that nurses throughout history have been involved in significant social movements, everything from the Civil War to the women's rights movements and many other things in between. Nurses collectively have organized and actually stood up and defended democracy in many different ways. But most importantly, as a collective, we've organized large scale conversations that have brought two divided sides together to have conversations that have meant in meaningful responses and actions that have only made our country better over the course of the last 200 years. And that's why we're here to talk to you today, is about taking those actions that we think nurses can lead in to actually help the future of our democracy and our nation come out in a better place than we have been, because we know sometimes in the greatest periods of conflict and of challenge, it is through that growth that we actually come out the other side stronger. But Marian, let's talk about some of the things that we are thinking and thinking about, and the ways that we think that nurses might not be aware of when it comes to democracy and the actions they can take to preserve it and also use their voice. We've talked about using your voice a lot in the past, but I think we're talking about it a little bit differently here today.
Totally. And I will just say your voice matters. Every single individual voice matters, especially right now. It's the hill I will die on and a soapbox I will constantly, continually stand upon. Every phone call you make, every protest you attend, every letter you write, every postcard you send, every office you show up to, every petition you sign, it matters. And so we all have different individual strengths and superpowers. It's really up to you to decide what your superpower is, what area that you want to focus on, and then what your comfort level is in the action that you take. And so there are a number of things that you can do as individuals, again, to build upon the collective group efforts that are going on. I will, in a minute, scroll across a number of different organizations that you can check out that have different calls to action, but let me lay them out for you. So from basically signing online petitions, every organization has been flooding email boxes with online petitions that send directly to your state senators and representatives. So if you are interested in, immigration rights, if you're interested in LGBTQ issues, women's health, whatever, any organization right now that you're a part of, you get their newsletter, they will send you petitions that you can fill out and go directly to your representative's office. You can also make phone calls to your representatives and you can show up to their office. Those are three different levels of engagement depending on your comfort area. They all make a difference. Flooding your office, your representative's office with phone calls, petitions, and physical bodies is so important right now. It shows them that you're paying attention and that you care about the decisions they're making on your behalf. Um,
And to Marianne's point, what we're trying to say here is that, silence often leads to the belief of consent, right? So the absence of your voice actually appears that you are in agreement with the
mhm.
policies that are being put forward. So therefore, it's critical that if you are not in agreement, that you do take action, as Marianne said, because democracy often dies in the face of silence. And it takes a little bit of courage and stepping outside of our comfort zones to actually express ourselves in meaningful ways. So just exactly what Marion's saying is there's different ways to engage, but the truth is if you don't engage, that is where we run the biggest risk. And what we want to tell you guys today is that by speaking out, using your voice and taking action is actually probably the most important, critically important issue to our democracy today. So Marion's sharing some of these incredible links to the companies and organizations who are working on different issues that might resonate with you. Because one other thing that Marion and I often very much are aware of is you can't do everything. You're going to have to represent what you feel is important, because the truth is we can't have you burning out. And the truth is it's better if we all pick issues that we're passionate about to represent so that others can pick up the other ones. But Marion, tell us a little bit about some of these organizations here that you're sharing.
Yeah, so locally and nationally, there are a number of different organizations. Some of these organizations, like Indivisible, that I was just scrolling, have local chapters as well. Think about, again, what you're interested in. These organizations often partner with other organizations to work together on different causes. They're the organizations that will send volunteers out to knock on doors, to make phone calls, to write letters, and to show up at protests. So if you want to find out how you can join a meeting, how you can write letters or make phone calls, what protests and events are going on, you can use the Mobilize app. Uh, it is an app that brings together events and issues from all different organizations. And so you can filter for the area in which you live. You can filter for the focus area that you're interested in getting involved in, and it will give you a list of all of the different actions that are going on. Again, at the various different levels that you might be comfortable in, whether that's just sending postcards or making phone calls or showing up at events, meetings, or protests. This app is and website is really helpful to allow you to know what's going on and then get involved as you're able to. And believe me, to Rebecca's point, there is no lack of opportunities to get involved. So, what I will also say is remember, resistance, rest is also resistance. The point of the chaos is burnout, and we don't want you all burning out. We can't be everywhere for every organization, so pace yourself.
And so I think when we're looking at ourselves as nurses, the truth is our profession has often looked at the Hippocratic oath to govern us as do no harm. But also one of the greatest things that our profession has done is it convenes on topics that matter to the future of human health and to the general consensus of our population and well-being. I think all of us want a world that we feel safe in, that we can walk outside and have great conversations and interactions with our neighbors, that our children are going to be safe going to school, and that we will live in a free society that is valued and is able to have tough times and move ourselves forward. And I think what we as a profession need to do, and what we've always advocated on the show for, is finding our voice. There are more than 5 million nurses, LPNs, and RNs in the country, making us the largest profession. And I often feel that our profession is the gauge on our moral compass in the country that we live in. And it is for us that I think that when we've always stepped across those thresholds to care for those who most others wouldn't, that it is within that power of empathy and compassion that we can find the opportunity as ourselves as a nation to drive it forward and have conversations in ways that others might not be able to do. And I think that, Marion, we've talked about this. There's so many things that are coming. I think some things make sense to some and some things make no sense at all. And the truth is you need to find where and how you're going to align on those things. So Marion and I are here today because we recognize that sometimes it feels scary to talk about these things, or you're worried of fear, uncertainty, and doubt by speaking out, that you yourself may be at risk. And what we want to say to you is the more of us that actually speak out and speak our minds and have these conversations, the better our democracy is going to be. The less of us who don't, the more of us who don't speak out is what risks the future of this nation, our profession, and the best of what we hope to do. So, Marion, what things should nurses know from some of the simplest actions that they can think of on a daily basis they could do, or on a small basis, to, some of those things, like you and I have both attended protests before in our past, which feels like a much bigger step. But what advice would you give to people who are hearing us thinking, I never thought that I would be in a spot to actually have to do, or potentially think about doing, any kind of what we would call of exercising our First Amendment's rights of freedom of speech to freedom to protest?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, this is going to be new. I've seen it on social media over the past few weeks, and I've seen it at even a protest I was at earlier this week. A lot of new people taking the step to show up and to act. And it can be very uncomfortable for folks. And so, one, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to use your voice, to show up, to stand up, to act up. And then also, you're not alone. There are a number of us who've been doing this for a while and who will continue to be there to show up and support. Um, you know, I put together a list of tips for people who are new to the resistance. If you want to check that out, if you're going to a protest, a march, or a rally, this sort of just lays out some of the things that I think, would be good to know, things of what to expect, what to bring, just to make you more comfortable. The idea here is to help make folks more comfortable, so that they're able to take that step to show up. And so check that out. And then, other things that you can do is basically, again, some of the things that I mentioned, checking out that Mobilize app and finding your community, I think, is a big one as well. There are a number of people just like you who aren't sure what to do, maybe feeling paralyzed by everything that's going on. Find your community, find your people, and that makes all the difference. Community right now is really important. You don't want to feel isolated and alone. You want to feel like you have this support group and a collective voice together to do the work.
And absolutely. And some very easy steps are: call your senators, call your congressmen, leave messages with the White House. People want to hear what we are actually thinking. Go ahead and write a letter to the editor. Go out on social and comment on others' posts. Question things that you are questioning, and engage with people in civil ways that actually can have driving conversations. The truth is you can do everything from doing that from just on your phone, to actually going ahead and writing a letter to the editor in your local paper, to organizing meetups with friends of yours virtually and webinars, so that you can have these conversations. But again, do not allow yourself to despair, because the truth is that if you feel despair, we're not going to be effective at actually doing those things. The truth is, I strongly still believe that we have a hope for a better future, and that when we together come and actually drive forward these changes, the new people that we are seeing join and speak out shows us that at this time in our democracy, we are going through one of the new evolutions of who we're going to be as a nation. Now, I think Mary and I are very hopeful, and why we're having this conversation with you is that we are going to drive to a better future. But that's only going to happen is if we keep engaging to have these positive conversations against some of what we consider very destructive rhetoric out there. Some of these things, we're going to be very honest, we probably missed over the course of the last few years. And that's our opportunity to learn. And I think Marion and I, we take a very much an approach that we want to learn, and we want to have those conversations, and we want to get better, because we believe that democracy, the future of our nation, elevates all of us to be better and to live in a freer and better world where we're going to see outcomes that are going to drive forward the vast majority into places that democracy deserves to be. But Marion, I know we're coming up on time here. This was a short segment. What things should we leave with everybody and to wrap up the conversation?
Yeah, just know that whatever you're doing is enough, but you have to do something. Now is not the time to stand on the sidelines. Now is the time to take the step, use your voice, and be a part of this collective movement to fight for the country that you want and for the democracy that we need. So please do something.
Absolutely. And I think we are very lucky in the United States that we live in a nation that preserves the Constitution, your right to free speech, your right to organize, your right to rally, your right to challenge the government, because so many places around the world do not have that right. So the truth is, the rest of the world is looking to us to sit there and lead and define what is this experiment of democracy. And the truth is, it is on our shoulders today to make sure that the future of democracy is lived out and that we experience it to this fullest. So take action today. Reach out to Marion and I if you have some questions. You're going to be seeing us again in the future. This is not the last of our 2025 episodes, it's just the first. We'll be bringing back a whole bunch of new topics, but underlying every single one will be about empowering nurses to do more, get involved with more, and learn how to use their voice to drive positive change. So I'm signing off. Marion.
Thank you all. Just keep using your voice and your power. Your collective power is what makes a difference.